there. I'm here on a Skype call with our good friend, Gunnar Allen Lindbloom from Detroit. He's been on the show before and he's got a lot of great stories. And we wanted to talk with him a little bit about a time when he kind of got more sophisticated as a thief. But we also want to talk a little bit about what's happened to him in more recent years after he did time, came out, and now he's got a whole new life. I think that's pretty interesting too. Gunnar, welcome. Really good to have you here.
Hey, Gary, how you doing, buddy? Good to be back.
So, I was reading your most recent Lindbloom Chronicles on the National Crime Syndicate website, and they have a Facebook page too, by the way, folks. And it's really interesting, kind of on your transition from being more of a knock them down and take their stuff guy to a little more sophisticated burglar, and I really appreciate that. I just did a whole 3-part series on the Hole in the Wall gang out in Las Vegas, and they had alarm guys and they had the break-in guys, the whole 9 yards. So why don't you tell people a little bit about that?
Okay, I thought I was sophisticated until I got to that point, but no, that was an interesting story. What happened was I was working at a gym, which was a shakedown because the guy who owned the gym owed my uncle Peter Toko a bunch of money for gambling and drugs and whatever. So they stuck me in the gym and said, basically skim from it. And so I was skimming a bunch of money out of the place, making a fortune really. And anyway, but I met a lot of people in the gym that are prominent people, judges and lawyers and police and stuff like that. And one of the guys that I met in there was a young guy. We'll call him Doug. And Doug worked for an alarm company, and I kind of became friends with him a little bit because his buddies and him bought weed from me. And I began to ask him like what he does at this alarm company. And it turned out, after a while I felt him out. I was trying to think, how can it get an angle here? There's got to be an angle. A guy works in an alarm company, And so I knew the family. We had some guys who mastered safe cracking and guys who did larcenies and crews that did that. But I didn't have anyone in particular. But anyway, so I eventually said, what do you do? He tells me he's an alarm technician that upgrades the software and that installs new hardware. And so I said, where I was going. I said, well, I want, work with me. First, he didn't want to do it. And I lose my job, whatever. And I was like, listen, you're going to do it one way or another. You know what I'm saying? So, because if you don't, people I work for are going to make sure you lose your job anyway. So they're going to, you have no choice. However, we'll give you a cut. You know what I mean? So if you get us the alarm code, show us how to deactivate these alarms, bypass the system, shut them down, then we'll give you a cut of everything that they get in there. And so we had a couple of guys, 2 guys that were masters at this larceny stuff. Like they enjoyed it. They got a rush from it. That's what they did. So they broke into buildings and houses. And one guy had been famous because he got into a bank by cutting a hole through the ceiling to bypass the alarm, which is amazing. He climbed a tree that was behind the building and jumped on the roof, cut a hole in the roof, rappelled it into the bank, got all the money. It was crazy. So he was famous for that. And he had an inside, source that told him that the alarm didn't cover the roof. It was just a vault door alarm. So, and the doors. But anyway, so one of the coolest things about this guy was he showed us how to, when you deactivate the alarm, how to fry the whole circuit board. So there's no memory, there's no record of the proper alarm code being entered. And that could be important because during an investigation, if it showed somebody had entered the proper alarm code to enter the house, they could point a finger, maybe at the alarm company, whatever. But the other thing is, most people are stupid and they'll give their alarm codes to family and friends. And so all it takes is the investigators, are like, hey, listen, you sure? Who'd you give this alarm code to? I gave it to my son, my nephew, my niece, maybe hit one of my son's friends, whatever. So they never really come back and pin it on the alarm guy. But we fried all the circuit boards anyway. So once they did alarm, but the real end was when those alarms are very touchy. And so a lot of people, they'll go to their house, they'll key open their house or their business, and they'll forget to enter the code. and then they'll go in the house. Well, there's a silent alarm gets triggered, and it rings the alarm company. And the alarm company immediately calls the homeowner. And if the homeowner doesn't answer, or if the homeowner says, "Oh, that wasn't me," then they send a call to 911, and the police come right to the property. So when people go on vacations, a lot of time, and the alarm company tells them to do this, because they get hundreds of calls every day, these big alarms where people are like, "Oh, sorry, it was an accident. I forgot to put the alarm in." They're like, "Ring, ring, ring, your alarm, you home, whatever." So they'll notify the alarm company and let them know, "I'm going to be out of town for a week or 2 weeks or whatever on a vacation. So if my alarm goes off, it's legit." You know what I'm saying? The police send the police. Well, this guy had access to all those master accounts, so he could look and see who was on vacation. So
who was on vacation? That's cool.
Yeah, he'd find out who was on vacation and who was not going to be home, and then he would give us that. So, like I said, it was like a blueprint for what homes to rob in the area. We stayed away from businesses because businesses usually have more sophisticated alarm systems, and they also have multiple alarm systems. So homes, residential homes. So we were doing these big like mansions in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, where high rollers live, in Bloomfield and Rochester, really big, beautiful homes. And I was usually a lookout guy. I never went into the houses because I didn't have the balls. These guys, they didn't care. These guys would go into these houses while people were home. They learned that people, they would act like, some kind of surveyorist or whatever, and knock on the door and just kind of figure out people's pattern. But they would break into houses not break in, they would go to people's houses during dinner time, these big mansions, just open the side door, walk right in, or go to right in, walk straight upstairs. You could they'd hear them having dinner in the dining room, and they'd go right upstairs and grab money and jewelry and walk right back out the front door at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon in broad daylight, just in and out. That's how ballsy they were. And so when I was helping them, I was the lookout. I'd sit down the road. I have a chase car. And chase car is what you use when you do things like this, because let's say somebody tries to follow them, sees them, and they got to take off in their van, or cops come and try. I would have this old chase car, and I would follow them and like block them, block whoever's chasing, or maybe even like stall out in the road or at a light, or even get in a minor accident, with them. You know what I'm saying? Just to stop the chase and let them get away. And that's what you do. You have a chase car. That's what I always did. But because my uncle was the main guy who got rid of it all, we had a sophisticated system where you had these guys in Chicago who did their own larceny scams. They had their own pawn shop, and we had a pawn shop in Detroit. So what we would do is take all this stolen goods, all the stolen property, and put it in a warehouse. And once we had a big van or truck full of high-end electronics and jewelry and all this stuff, because you can't put it in a pawn shop in town. Somebody could walk right in and be like, "Hey, that's my watch, that's my fur coat, that's whatever." But if you ship it down to Chicago, then and put it in their pawn store, nobody's in there looking for it. And it's the same thing. The Chicago stuff at our store, our stuff in Chicago, and the cops too. The cops always come in and kind of audit, pawn shops that are under suspicion. So they'll come in and do an audit. It's like, look at all the records for these high-end watches and diamond rings and jewelry, and that's kind of how I learned how to gauge the value of jewelry and diamonds and things like that. And I had, I probably had $100,000 worth of watches at the end of my run. And I wrote about that, how I kind of got screwed out of that when I got arrested and got thrown in jail. And I was fighting my case. I figured that was my lawyer fund. I had $100,000 worth of watches set aside, but my ex-girlfriend's roommate had the slime ball boyfriend, and when she went to get the watches and take them in, there was only maybe $20,000 worth of watches. Some were missing, and then on top of that, like, my uncle screwed my girl at the pawn shop and only gave her pennies on the dollar because I'm in prison. She doesn't know any better, so she's bringing in a $5,000 Rolex, and he's like, "I'll give you $500 for it." And so I ended up with a couple grand, totally screwed over, but. While it was going, we were making a lot of money. It was a good side hustle. And these guys were pros, man. I mean, they did not play around. They go in that house. They'd spend hours in there. I'd be out on the road at night, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, dip down. I got to dip down in my car with a police scanner, listen to the police scanner in case if there's a cop in dispatch to our location. And these guys would be in there for hours. And I'm just freaking out. They didn't care. They were in there for hours. They'd mess around and be like, "Oh, sitting in jacuzzi, making." They literally did make sandwiches and like eat out of the homeowner's food and refrigerators. They didn't care. They wore gloves. They just go in there, eat, hang out, and search the house, tear it up, looking for any kind of valuables. And some of the stories, man, like we found a safe in an old washing machine in one basement, some big house, and my guy noticed there was 2 washing machines, so he just felt inclined to go check and see what was in them. And in one, he found a safe that had like $20,000 in it and a couple pistols. And of course, the small safes, sometimes I'd have to carry them out, help them carry it out of the house. No, here it is. Here we are, 4 o'clock in the morning, all decked out like in black and knit. And 3 of us trying to carry this safe down the road, or we'd throw it on the lawn because they usually park their van in the next block because they come through the backyard, jump the backyard fence, come over, and then they drive the van around and pull right up in the driveway, load a safe up, and take off. It was comical and crazy at the same time, man.
I can hear that call coming out now. Reported 3 men carrying a safe down Brookside Boulevard.
Right, exactly. At 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 men in black, all black.
Yeah.
Carrying a safe.
Hey, did you ever? We had a guy here for a while that was like that, and he'd always take a dump and leave it on the floor. Did either of these guys do that?
No, but one of them said he would take a dump and leave it in the toilet and not flush it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I've heard that. I've heard of that. And this one guy do it on the floor. We had one that did it on the front porch. Now, in this day of DNA, you wouldn't be doing that, but there's something about these burglars that like to take a dump inside that house. That's crazy, but
leaving their mark, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been here.
It's like the male dog wants to come in and pee on everything.
Yeah. Those guys are crazy. I did some crazy stuff in my time as far as like crime. But I mean, I've been arrested like 35 times or something, but I never was a thief. I didn't have that inclination. And I think I wrote about that. You can't control a lot of factors when you're a thief and doing things like that. If I'm in control of the situation, if I got to shake a guy down or rob somebody, it's all me. But when there's that, and there's so many variables, you go into this house, you don't know if the alarm code worked. You don't know if the neighbor heard you, the dog barked. It just is somebody watching. You don't know. So I couldn't do it, man. I was like, there's no way I could do it. But these guys, man, it was like a drug to them. They loved it. Then they'd spend all the money in the club.
So that's a great story, Gunner, and I got some of my own stories chasing guys like that. I won't go into. I'll tell you one quick one. We were out, when neighbors start getting those guys breaking in their houses while they're asleep upstairs, they get nervous and they call the police station and they get hold of the commander or whatever. So they detailed about 6 of us to go out in slick cars and just cruise this one high-end neighborhood. And we caught a car just sitting there, and it did not belong. It was registered about 25 blocks east of there. We snuck up on it, and there's one guy pretending like he was asleep in the car. And the other, we knew there was another one because he always ran with this other guy. So we grabbed the kid out of the car that was acting like he was asleep. So he wouldn't run off. I took him and had him take his shoes off and threw them away, and then pulled him over behind another house. Then we just waited for the other guy to come back. Wasn't about 10 minutes, he comes slinking back up there, and the foot chase is on. So it's a game of cat and mouse there late at night.
That's all it is, man. Some of these areas where we did it were really high-end neighborhoods, like Grosse Pointe prides itself on having one police squad car for every square mile of the city. Wow. So, this is where like William Clade Ford, Art Van from Art Furniture. I mean, billionaires live here. So it's a very exclusive area. They pay a lot of money in taxes. They have cops everywhere. So you gotta be slick, man. That's where the money's at. So that's where they go.
So Gunner, let's talk about, everybody knows that you then went out and went into the joint and did quite a little bit of time and changed your life around. So let's talk a little bit about your life since then. I see the title of your book there in the background, To Be a King. I know you've written a couple of books, and you're working on a screenplay, I think maybe, and flirting with Hollywood and movies and got an apparel line, a line of clothing, our thing. So let's talk a little bit about what's happened to you in the last 3 years.
Well, been a fun ride since I got out about 30 months ago or so. I have published 2 novels, To Be a King Volume 1 and 2. There they are on my shoulder. It's a banner there. And they've done really well. They're not, I'm not where I want them to be yet, meaning, on the big screen. But for like I did a promotion a while back, and lowered the price for the books, and volume 1 like cracked the top. I don't know. I think it peaked at number 4 in the world of organized crime. So it's the book's done really well, both of them. People are constantly saying it's the next Godfather. I mean, I had someone just yesterday again are going, dude, this is the next Godfather. It's a modern day Godfather, or you're the next Mario Puzo, or people say you are as good or better than Mario Puzo, which is a huge compliment. Guy's kind of one of my idols, Mario Puzo. But it is in the sense that it's a very big, grand story. And so people like that kind of story. It's not your average, like, kind of, it's not like my Lindbloom Chronicles where they're just kind of street hustler antidotes. You know what I'm saying? My books are really big, grand stories with a really epic, complex plot that, takes 1,000 pages for it to evolve into this piece. They're all little pieces of the puzzle I planted through volume 1 and then into volume 2, and then all of a sudden you get the end of volume 2 and it like smacks you in the face because you're like, oh my god, now it all makes sense, and all of a sudden it all makes sense. All the little pieces suddenly go right into a perfect puzzle. But that's why people love it, and so there's a lot of interest in that. And I am working on a screenplay. Shop screenwriters. Screenwriters are a funny thing. A lot of people write screenplays and they're all garbage because everybody who writes a script thinks they got a good script. They're all like, I got the next Oscar-winning script. Like, have you proven it? Have you done anything to prove it? I mean, that is garbage. But with a novel like mine, it's proven it has a following. It's proven the story is good. You look at the reviews of my book. I have 5-star reviews across the board, both volumes. One is, I think, 95% 5-star reviews on the one, and my volume 2 is 100% 5-star reviews, 100%, which is like unheard of. So I have a lot of writers like, how are you getting all these 5-star reviews? I'm like, I wrote a good book. But so the screenwriter thing, I've had, I put a shout out to some screenwriters, and a lot of them are like, well, I need to be paid up front and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not interested in paying you anything. First of all, I don't know if your work's going to be any good. So second of all, my book's established that the story is a A-list story. So here's what I'm telling these great screenwriters to do. Write a 20 or 30 page treatment of the story for me. Read the books, read it, and I have a couple of them doing that right now. I said, if I like what you write, if I think that it's any good, then I'll say, okay, go back and rewrite the script, a full script. I'll work with you and help you on it. And I know it'll take some months. I said, and then if the final product meets my approval, then me and you will sign a contract stating that if we sell the movie rights, you'll get like 10% of all the movie rights. That 10% of whatever I get. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but if I sell the movie rights and I end up with a multi-million-dollar deal, or even if I get 3-4% off the tail end of a movie of the gross, and that is $25 million. You know what I'm saying? So a screenwriter can get paid. If they get 10%, that's $2.5 million just for their work writing the script. And there's no guarantee of that too. There's no guarantee to them that, because a studio, a network, a production company may want to rewrite the whole script and to say, we like the story you want it, but we want to redo the script. But again, in the contract with my screenwriter, I'll say it doesn't matter, because if we get it sold, if they rewrite your whole script, I'll still give you that 10% if the movie gets sold. So I have a few screenwriters right now in the process of doing that, and so it's a slow process. But I'm not gonna hand my script off. Never gonna pay anyone. They should be honored. Not to sound like a douche, but I'm just saying they should be honored that I'm allowing you to have the opportunity to write the script for something that's being called the next Godfather. This is a career changer. You know what I'm saying? If it gets picked up, made into a blockbuster movie and an Oscar-winning movie, and you are the screenwriter who wrote it, you could basically write your own ticket. Your career has been launched. And so the interesting part is one of the screenwriters that I reached out to, his name is Kai Thorpe. And he reached out to me. He called me back and he says, your Lindbloom Chronicles, we want to make them into a pilot, TV pilot. He's like, I haven't read the books, so me and my production partner have read these Lindbloom Chronicles. And I explained, I said, well, my books are much bigger, much grander. They're much more, story is very big and much more. I said, the Lindbloom Chronicles are just nothing really compared, although they're really good and they've had a couple million reads and all this. But he said, I think it's perfect for a pilot. And we have this new format. It's a really high production value format that I can't talk about. I mean, it's kind of, I signed an NDA, let's say, and I can't explain how they do it. But what they want to do is take my Lindbloom Chronicles, do episode 1 and 2 of the Lindbloom Chronicles into like a 50-minute pilot. And that pilot is going to be two things. The first thing is it's going to be shopped to networks and production companies to see if we get a television show, a scripted series, like let's describe as Goodfellas meets Entourage meets Wonder Years. You know what I'm saying? And so, or The Sopranos meets, Wonder Years.
Yeah, that's perfect for Netflix or Amazon that are doing those series. I get hooked on those all the time. That's the kind of series that gets you hooked. I was working with a guy out in California. He was wanting to do one about a club in Kansas City. It was going to be more California kind of stuff, but he was using the set up here, and he was trying to get as much facts as he could to make it as real as possible, to make it in this Netflix or Amazon ongoing series. So that's perfect for that. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is. And this guy really knows what he's doing. He's been in the film business for 25 years. He's a pro. He's been, he's done hundreds of movies and TV shows and all like that. And so him and his partner, they have this new format that, again, I can't talk about, but it's amazing. And they really want to put together a high production value. So what they're doing is they want to prove to the networks, see, this format they're talking about has been done for movies. Okay. Soderbergh is the producer who's just recently done a couple movies using this format. And anyways, it's done well, but nobody's done it with TV. So these guys say, we want to take that format and transition it to TV, to television, and sell, but he's like, so we have to have a really good finished product, because this is going to be our like flagship, meaning we have a lot of other projects that we want to do this format and get sold to production companies and studios and networks. However, yours, because of the value of the story and the way the stories are told, are so perfect for it. Very short clip stories where they kind of evolve and do farther along. So it's a big story. And they want to tell it. So start it off to where I'm in prison. I'm a character actor based on me, a character. Start off with me in prison at a desk, writing in like a notepad, or typing, probably writing in a notepad. So I'm in a prison cell, and then like my bunkie asked me a question, and I turned around from that notepad and I started talking to him, and next thing you know, it flashes back.
I see. Cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, and then I tell him this story. And then, so now there is my real life in prison at the time. And then they keep flashing back as I tell these stories, these Lindbloom Chronicles, they flash back. But the crazy part is that the viewer, the audience, will think what I'm writing is actually the stories I'm telling. You're just going to assume, I'm in there writing these stories. What they won't know till 5 seasons in is I'm actually writing novels. Have nothing to do with those stories. I'm a novelist. And so it'll follow, and then I'll, towards when I get out, they'll realize I wrote these novels, and then like I'll meet my wife. She'll start writing me, and I'll start getting so it covers like my life in prison, and then all these flashback stories, and then on top of that, it'll by like how I met my wife, and then when I get out, there's more. There's more when I get out. So that's going to be really cool if they do that. They're excited to do it. And so they basically think they'll have the funding to do it. And so it'll be fun to.
I love that. I love that. You're blending fiction with true crime.
Yeah. Although none of it's fiction.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You're blending fiction with real life or true crime. And the viewer won't really know exactly what it is, maybe until you reveal at the end. That's a cool format,
right? Although none of it is based on fiction, it's really based on those Lindbloom Chronicles aren't fiction, so they're all real.
Right.
And then this would be in prison. Although I'm not there now, it's kind of it'll be the viewer won't know. that I'm home and free and all this stuff, but eventually it kind of leads up to that. And so, yeah, I don't know. It could last 5 or 10 seasons. Who knows? Who knows? I can keep writing Lindbloom Chronicles all day. I got a million stories. So,
yeah, I know. I've read a bunch of them. They're great. Hey, let's talk about your Our Thing apparel. Also, I want to make sure we get that in. I'm interested in that. That's quite a project you've taken on.
Oh yeah, it's fun. But okay, Our Thing Apparel started it was serendipity. It wasn't even something I ever planned to do. So in fact, I got a hoodie on now. But so I was promoting my book in these mob fan groups. So I had a hoodie made with the cover of my book on it, posted it in the mob groups, and someone was like, oh man, that's dope. I want one of those hoodies. I'm like, yeah, but then someone was like, yeah, I want one too, but I'm from New Jersey, because on the back I put Detroit Our Thing. You know what I'm saying? So on the back I put Detroit and then Our Thing in quotes, and everyone's like, oh man, it's dope. I like it, but I'm from New Jersey. Can you put Jersey? I said, yeah. And people from New York and people from. So the next thing you know, I start making different designs. And using an app on my computer, I began to make designs, and then the same thing. And then I put Detroit Our Thing on the back with our logo. We have this cool logo, and next thing you know, people are wanting that, and they want this. They're like, well, can you do a sweatsuit? Can you do a tracksuit? Can you do? And next thing you know, and a whole we filed for a trademark, and we started a company, La Mia Familia, and next thing you know, we got a full blown apparel line that sells everything.
So where do people find that?
Ourthingapparel.com.
Okay. Yep. So you can order them offline. Aren't you going? Didn't I see something on Facebook? You're going to go into a store and
some stores in Detroit, 3-4 big stores. We're working on inventory. And the thing about them stores is they require, $10,000-$20,000 in inventory. And but we'll get there. We're going to get there soon. But the owner agreed to carry our clothes. And these are like 4 of the biggest men's clothing stores in Detroit, high-end places that really sell, a lot of, our varsity jackets there probably sell for $800. You know what I'm saying? They're just, but it's kind of an exclusive. The more it costs, the more exclusive it is. And so we sell varsity jackets and windbreakers and tracksuits. Those are some of our best sellers. And then hoodies and t-shirts and stuff. And there's, not all the designs have a gun in your face like this one. Some are, some are a little more benign, and some, might just say Omerta with our logo and say your city. And that's the thing, it's customizable. We sell it all over. I mean, I sold it as far as the UK and Australia, and I've sold, every major city in America. I just recently sold a $1,400 order to a woman in Boston. It's just a woman, a middle-aged woman. It's like, oh, I love it all. I want all that. She ordered 3 varsity jackets, $1,400 order. So, I mean, it's just people love the stuff, the brand, and it's so, because there's a double entendre. There's a double meaning. And here's what I'm saying, Gary. Even if you don't know what Our Thing is, getting a call. Like right now, I'm getting a phone call from my buddy who's in prison.
Okay.
Want me to answer it?
Don't you hate to not take that? I have a guy that calls me from the joint once in a while. And one time I was busy and I hated not to take it because I know it's kind of a pain, and sometimes he has to wait and stand in line.
I should have answered it and let him put it on speaker. We got to talk to him.
Yeah.
But if he calls back, I will. That's funny. But so, even if you're not from, even if you don't know what Our Thing is, La Cosa Nostra, you could be walking down the streets of New Jersey or Detroit or LA or wherever you're from that we have the clothes. And if somebody has a jacket or shirt on or hoodie or something that says, if you're from LA and it says LA Our Thing with our cool logo in the middle, it don't matter if you don't know Cosa Nostra. You're just like, yeah, LA, it's our thing. That's our thing. So that's what makes it cool. There's a double meaning, but there's also a hidden meaning behind it. And which makes it cool. So once people find out what the Our Thing means, they're like, oh man, it's even more cool. But rep your city Our Thing. Everybody in Detroit loves it, because people from Detroit are take a lot of pride in being in their city. It's a tough city. When you're from Detroit, man, people know you're tough. So people walk around with Detroit Our Thing, and they're just like, yeah, Detroit, it's our thing. They love it. So, and it's everywhere though. It's everywhere. Anywhere you go, people are going to take pride in their city. We custom make it to every city. So wherever you're from, I've done Kansas City, by the way.
Yeah, you're onto something. I noticed with my podcast, when I do a podcast. I did a podcast about something in Los Angeles, and I promoted it on some Los Angeles Facebook pages. I got tons of play. If I do one about Chicago, there's 2 great Chicago Facebook pages. I promote them on that. Those things will do almost double. Then it'll drop back off the next week. It's basically, the same people doing the same work and the same kind of stories, but it'll be another city, or maybe come back to Kansas City. Well, people in Kansas City will be all over it. People in Chicago will drop off, put a Chicago story back up. So you're onto something there, tailor it to each city.
Exactly. So everybody takes pride in their city.
Yeah.
Everybody takes pride in where they're from. That's the cool thing about Art Thing. They like the underground vibe of it with the hidden meaning with Cosa Nostra, Art Thing. It's important to get it. But, even if they don't, they're just like, you got kids rocking the stuff, wearing around. They don't know what Art Thing means, but, Detroit, Art Thing. And it's, or Chicago, Art Thing, or whatever. So we've done a lot of Chicago stuff. It's got Al Capone on the front, and then it says Chicago, Art Thing.
Yeah, cool. Good idea. If you could just add the sports team logo in without having to pay them $1 jillion for it, you'd really be onto something, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, but I love to sponsor a sports team someday where they're wearing Our Thing jerseys. Like they do Nike.
Right, well, this has been great. Let's recap a little bit. How do people find your work and follow you?
You can go to GunnerDetroit.com. That's my website, GunnerDetroit.com. I'm Gunner Detroit on Instagram, and on Facebook. I have my personal page is maxed out. You're only allowed to have 5,000 people, but you can go to my author Gunner Alan Lindbloom page. It's my author page. Yeah, and I post pretty much the same stuff. By the way, anyone who wants to support a really good cause this fall, Art Thing Apparel is hosting a huge event, a 1920s speakeasy themed dress ball for Gilda's Club. When Gilda's Club's the Cancer Society Association, right. And they're super great cause, and they allowed me to host a charity event for them. People are going to be coming from all over the country for that. And it's an awesome cause. Right now, I got a raffle tickets at artthingapparel.com. So if you go to Art Thing Apparel, one of the first things you do is you'll see the cherry ball. That's the first thing. Click on it, and you can actually buy raffle tickets, $10, but a chance to win 2 VIP passes and $300 swag bag. It includes a tracksuit and a jacket and all this stuff. But that's a really cool event that you got to come up and make it to that, man.
Yeah, really.
I mean, 1920s speakeasy theme ball. I mean, it's at one of the most iconic locations, Burt's Theater in Detroit's Eastern Market. And the Eastern Market is basically Detroit's version of Little Italy. And I have a celebrity chef who's going to be catering it. His name is Chef Bobby Nero. The guy's the best of the best. He's world famous, world renowned. He made truffles for the Oscars last year, so the guy's big time. But he's a friend of mine, so he's going to be catering it. Really good 5-star food and great music. We got a live band and a DJ, and just really fun time. Dress up with your brim hat on, your fedora, zoot suit, flapper dresses for the ladies. Just come and have a good time. So that's one of the things. Trying to get back,
All right, great. So don't forget, folks, for a great read, go to Amazon. It's probably the easiest to get it in a Kindle version, what a lot of people like to do. You can probably buy your books off your website too. But To Be a King,
you can buy the paperback at Amazon.
Yeah, and To Be a King, volumes 1 and 2.
Yep.
And
they're both
go
available.
to the National Crime Syndicate Facebook page, or National Crime Syndicate, all one word.com. You can see the Lindbloom Chronicles, and you can learn a whole lot more. And it's really interesting stuff. They talk about out of the mouths of the men who did it. That Lindbloom Chronicles is, I love that, right out of the mouth of the men who did it, and was right there on the somebody that's making it up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those are cool because I never claimed to be some big mob boss or no big mob guy. Right. I never cared about being in a mob. I was just trying to feed myself, pay my bills, and just hustle, and I just did it scraping on the streets. But a lot of people like that true grit, where this guy's not, it was nobody. This is like the real life of a mob, guy.
Right, exactly.
Shit, what I'm saying? And then they're always kind of crazy, but they're all like, wow, man, that's the way it is, So people love it.
I understand. All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this with us. I'll put this up on YouTube, and I'll make this into a podcast if you'll send me that other recording. I appreciate it, Gunner.
I got it. And No problem.
All right.
We'll do it again.
All
See you
right.
later.